Number 1.
Francesca ran away from her Paterson, New Jersey home on June 9, 2000, the day before her 13th birthday. Her twin sister, Miss Hyla, stated they were at 17th Avenue and East 22nd Street when Francesca said she was going to the store. When the girl's stepfather came to the store a few minutes later, he found out Francesca had never arrived there. At 1:30 p.m., Francesca called home and spoke to Miss Hyla, saying she was with friends at the Great Falls on the Passaic River in Paterson. She asked Miss Hyla not to tell anyone, then hung up. She has never been heard from again. Francesca told friends she was interested on attending the Puerto Rican Day Parade in Manhattan, New York on June 11, but it's unclear whether she ever arrived there. Friends reported she was dating a 22-year-old man her family didn't know. If this was true, Francesca's boyfriend could have potentially faced serious legal consequences for statutory rape. A few days after her disappearance, the clothes Francesca had been wearing on the day she vanished, untorn but minus the shoes, were found in a supermarket bag in the driveway outside her mother's house. On July 22, 6 weeks after her twin sister disappeared, Miss Hyla also vanished. She left a mother for her mother, reproaching her for not loving their stepfather and for alleged infidelity in her marriage. The letter said she and Francesca were unhappy at home. The girl's mother says she was not having an affair with anyone at the time. It's possible twins left of their own accord and may be traveling together, possibly in the New York City boroughs of Brooklyn or the Bronx. There is also speculation that they were victims of human trafficking. Another theory is the girl's stepfather, Hippolito Miguel Corneal, was involved. A few months after Francesca and Miss Hyla disappeared, Corneal killed a young woman. He served a 17-year sentence for the crime and was released in 2017. The girl's brother believes one of his sisters was pregnant with Corneal's child in 2000, but there is no evidence to support this theory. Miss Hyla and Francesca's disappearances remain unsolved. Many agencies classify them as runaways.
Number 2.
Curtis was visiting the family of his father, Curtis Williams, for the Thanksgiving holidays in Newark, New Jersey on November 18, 1989. His mother, Lashan McCoy, had custody of him and they resided in South Carolina at the time. Curtis was last seen walking slightly behind his father's girlfriend, Sabetha Moore, and the two baby daughters Moore and Williams had together. The family was window shopping in downtown Newark. Williams said he reached behind to take his son's hand as the group crossed an intersection, but Curtis had vanished. The child has never been seen again. An extensive search yielded no evidence as to his whereabouts. Williams was questioned numerous times over the years by the New Jersey investigators regarding the child's fate. Lashan claims that her son did not want to travel to New Jersey for the visitation and that she had to reassure him the trip would be fine. She moved her family to New Jersey after her son disappeared in 1989. Williams was jailed, along with Moore, on fraud charges in September 2005. They allegedly stole security deposits from prospective tenants of an apartment and also falsely reported Curtis as a dependent on a loan application. Authorities initially believed Williams had hidden Curtis in the local area and the child was living under an assumed name, but their search turned up no evidence that he was alive. In January 2006, Williams was additionally charged with his son's murder. Authorities stated they had opened a grand jury investigation into Curtis's disappearance, and Moore testified that Williams killed his son and then reported him as a missing person to cover up the crime. Moore did not, however, know where Curtis's body was, nor did she have any other evidence to support her statement. In May 2007, Williams pleaded guilty to hindering apprehension in connection with his son's disappearance. He was sentenced to time served and 5 years as probation and was released from custody immediately. The murder and fraud charges were dropped. Williams admitted to killing son and stated he buried the child's corpse in a shallow grave under the New Jersey Turnpike in Jersey City, New Jersey. Prosecutors stated they did not have enough evidence to prove the murder charge, hence the plea agreement. Lashan criticized the arrangement as being too lenient. Numerous unsuccessful searches have been conducted for Curtis's remains. Authorities believe Williams was telling the truth about the body's location, but they have not located anything at the specified place. His case remains classified as a non-family abduction with some agencies.
Number 3.
Melissa's family lived with two roommates, Wanda Farid and her common-law husband, in the 600 block of Lamberton Street in Trenton, New Jersey in 1988. Reed is mentally disabled and functions at the level of a 4 to 7-year-old child. A photo of her is posted with this case summary. On March 6, 1988, Reed asked Melissa's mother, Rebecca McGuinn, for permission to take the baby for a walk. Rebecca consented and Reed left with the baby. When she returned, just 8 minutes later, she had a neighbor with her, and Melissa was gone. The child has never been seen again. Reed told several conflicting stories to explain Melissa's disappearance. At first she claimed an unidentified African-American man jumped out of a car, knocked her down and took Melissa. She later said she had dropped or thrown the baby into the Delaware River. A third story implicated the neighbor woman who accompanied Reed home that day. Reed said she'd given the baby to the woman in exchange for drugs. An extensive search of the river turned up no sign of Melissa, and it would have been difficult for Reed to have walked the distance there and back within the 8-minute time frame. The neighbor whom Reed claimed had bought Melissa denied having had anything to do with the baby's disappearance, and she was cooperative with the investigation, as were Melissa's parents. It's possible Reed harmed the baby because she was jealous. The night before Melissa's disappearance, there was a party at the house, and the guests paid attention to Melissa while ignoring Reed's 2-month-old son. Reed allegedly had 2 other children who had been placed for adoption sometime prior to 1988. 2 days after Melissa's disappearance, Reed was charged with kidnapping. She was found incompetent to stand trial, and the charges were dropped in December 1989. Reed was then sent to live in a facility for mentally disabled individuals. She now lives with relatives. Melissa's family moved to Arkansas after her disappearance. Her father died in 2008, but her mother and 2 brothers are still alive. Rebecca traveled to New Jersey in 2011, took a polygraph about her daughter's disappearance, and passed. She was ruled out as a suspect in the investigation. Melissa's case is classified as a non-family abduction due to the unclear circumstances involved in her disappearance. Her case remains unsolved.
Number 4.
Moreno-Acevedo was last seen at her apartment in the 30 block of East Main Street in Freehold, New Jersey, on the morning of February 20, 2003. She has never been heard from again. Foul play is suspected in Moreno-Acevedo's disappearance. While her remains have not been found, police are investigating her disappearance as a homicide. They think she was murdered sometime between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. the day of her disappearance. Moreno-Acevedo was reported missing on February 21, 1 day after she was last seen. Later that day, a woman was seen throwing a plastic trash bag out the window of Moreno-Acevedo's home into an alley. Police recovered and opened the bag and found articles of clothing and boots. The items were blood-stained, and there were 3 holes, resembling stab holes, in the shirt that was found. The clothing is being subjected to forensic testing to see if the blood is Moreno-Acevedo's. One of Moreno-Acevedo's roommates, Francisca Martinez, was arrested that same day and charged with 4th-degree tampering with evidence and 3rd-degree hindering apprehension. Martinez was also reportedly Moreno-Acevedo's lover. She was the one who threw the clothes out the window. On February 20, Martinez took a taxicab to West New York, New Jersey. She paid $130 for the trip and had with her 2 suitcases so heavy the driver had trouble carrying them. He dropped her off at Kennedy Boulevard in front of the office of Martinez's plastic surgeon, which was not open for business at the time. At 12:30 p.m. that day, she returned to Freehold without any luggage. That same morning, 2 men in a black van were seen driving away with a rolled-up blanket or carpet they removed from Moreno-Acevedo's apartment building. Police say a blanket is in fact missing from her apartment. Blood was found in Martinez's bedroom and elsewhere in her apartment, and broken pieces of her fingernails. A broken knife handle was also found in her bedroom. Authorities say the blade it was once attached to would have matched the holes in the shirt they found in the alley. Martinez admitted to investigators that Moreno-Acevedo has been murdered but blamed the crime on a 3rd woman, an ex-lover of Moreno-Acevedo, who also shared their apartment. Martinez claims the woman and Moreno-Acevedo got into a fight and Moreno-Acevedo was stabbed to death. Martinez says she became frightened and fled the apartment, and when she returned later Moreno-Acevedo's body was gone, and her roommate told her to help clean up the spilled blood and not to tell anyone about the crime. The roommate was the one who filed the missing person report for Moreno-Acevedo. Police do not believe she was in fact involved in her presumed homicide. It is believed that Moreno-Acevedo's presumed death may have something to do with Santeria, a religion practiced in the Caribbean which combines elements of Roman Catholicism and African religions. The religion involves animal sacrifices but forbids human sacrifice. Martinez is a follower of Santeria and once paid $7,000 to remove a curse she believed had been cast on her. Investigators are unsure as to how she could afford this, along with $6,000 in plastic surgery, as she was only making $7 an hour at the time of her arrest. Police lacked the evidence to charge Martinez with Moreno-Acevedo's murder. She remains in jail and could be deported when she gets out. Moreno-Acevedo left Colombia 3 years before her disappearance and was employed as a cleaning woman. She is described as a responsible, well-organized person who called her mother in Colombia daily. Her case remains unsolved.
Number 5.
Liza was last seen in Emerson, New Jersey on August 19, 2007. Her husband, Joseph, stated they had an argument that afternoon. He accused her of having an affair and demanded a divorce. Liza walked away from the house afterwards, eastbound towards a nearby wooded area, and has never been heard from again. She left behind her cellular phone, medication, wallet, money, credit cards, cigarettes and all her clothes. She was reported missing to the police the next day by an anonymous phone caller. The Murphys' marriage was troubled. Liza's family claims Joseph was verbally abusive and possessive of her, and the police were called to their home several times in response to domestic disputes. Joseph, an immigrant from Ireland, has no criminal record and no known history of violent behavior. Less than a week after Liza's disappearance, he jumped into traffic in an attempt to take his own life. He was struck by a vehicle and injured, seriously but not fatally. After this incident, he stopped cooperating with police in Liza's case. Joseph said he tried to kill himself because he was distressed about his wife's disappearance and the ensuing criminal investigation. He has since fully recovered from his injuries. This was not the first time Joseph had attempted to commit suicide. A recovering alcoholic, he has been treated for depression and tried to kill himself in 1990 while he was separated from Liza. Liza herself has a history of prescription drug abuse and was involuntarily committed to a mental hospital for a brief period in 2005 after she threatened suicide. She spent 18 months in counseling for depression and substance abuse issues. She also had ongoing disputes with her brother and a neighbor, which resulted in disorderly person reports. It's uncharacteristic of Liza to leave without warning, however, despite her personal problems. She left behind 3 children, who are now in Joseph's care. A photo of Joseph is posted with this case summary. In December 2014, 7 years after Liza's disappearance, he was charged with possession of a false government document. Authorities had discovered he'd been using a false identity for decades. His real name is Paschal Delahunty. He had illegally entered the United States from Ireland and become a permanent resident in 1990 under the alias Joseph Murphy, using an alias date of birth. Extensive searches of the local area have turned up no signs of Liza. Authorities believe she may have been accosted after she left her home following the argument with Joseph. Her case remains unsolved.
Number 6.
Nuttall-Ravert was last seen on September 7, 2008. A coworker dropped her off at home at 11:30 p.m. She lived in a third-floor apartment in the 200 block of Hamilton Avenue in Trenton, New Jersey. A cab driver dropped her off at the Walter Rand Transportation Center in Camden, New Jersey, at 12:30 a.m. on September 7. She told him she didn't have enough money to get back to Trenton. She has never been heard from again. Nuttall-Ravert's family reported her missing on September 22. They stated she'd been under emotional stress before she went missing, her boyfriend was incarcerated and she was having problems with her roommate. She had an upcoming court date and believed, mistakenly, that she might be jailed. She has a history of drug abuse and prostitution and a criminal record for related offenses, but she had been clean for about 15 months before she vanished. It's possible she began to use heroin again. Her boyfriend was allegedly physically abusive to her and had been jailed many times, and she was trying to end their relationship. Nuttall-Ravert's family lives in Egg Harbor, New Jersey. She frequented Egg Harbor, as well as the Pacific Avenue area of Atlantic City, New Jersey, an area known for its prostitution activity. She worked as a waitress at the Sticky Wicket restaurant at the time of her disappearance. Foul play is suspected in her disappearance, as it's uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning and abandon her pet pit bull, whom she cherished like a child. Police found what they believe is blood on the walls and carpet in her apartment. Nuttall-Ravert's male roommate has cooperated with the investigation and isn't being called a suspect in her case. Her credit cards haven't been used since she went missing, her cellular phone was turned off half an hour after she was last seen, and she left behind 2 uncashed paychecks. Nuttall-Ravert grew up in Conshohocken, New Jersey, and was on the swim team and the marching band at Plymouth Whitemarsh High School. She enjoys music, popcorn and old television shows. Her disappearance remains unsolved.
Number 7.
Isabella and her mother, Holly Lynn Codario, disappeared from Ocean City, New Jersey at 11 p.m. on January 14, 2003. They were last known to be riding in Codario's mother's black Volkswagen Jetta. At 4 a.m. the following day, a toll worker found the Jetta on the southbound shoulder of the Ocean City Longport Bridge. The car was unlocked and in working condition, with the lights turned off, the keys in the ignition, Codario's purse and driver's license on the passenger's seat, and Isabella's baby carrier in the back. There were no indications of foul play. Isabella's father, Codario's former boyfriend, provided an apartment for them in a gated complex on Delaire Landing Road near State Road in northeast Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They shared custody of the baby, but Codario was concerned that her boyfriend or his family might try to take Isabella away from her. She filed for sole custody and child support, but later withdrew both petitions. Codario was exhibiting signs of paranoia at the time of her disappearance. She suspected there were hidden cameras and listening devices in her apartment, and she went to 2 hospitals and asked them to test her for poisons. She may have been suffering from postpartum depression. Codario's body was found along the south shore of the Great Egg Harbor Bay in the Beasley's Point section of Upper Township, New Jersey, on April 25, 2003. This was 2 miles directly west of the Ocean City Longport Bridge. Codario had drowned, and authorities found no evidence of foul play in her death. Investigators believe Codario probably jumped from the bridge with Isabella in her arms, but there were no witnesses, no note was left behind, and the baby's body has never been recovered.